You're listening to Artworkers, the Independent Artists Forum. I'm your host, Carl Bindman. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest is New York City-based actor Mary Blake. In our conversation together, Mary and I talk about the ongoing and very fun search for artistic tools, the relationship with the audience through a screen and in person, and how acting class is kind of like acting. Almost. Over to you, Carl. Because I'm a professional.
You are a journalist.
I am. I have a degree. I do. I think I say that at least every episode, and I need to stop doing that.
It's the running gag. Let's embrace it.
Is it a gag, or is it just like kind of unnecessary lore?
That's up for you to decide.
Oh, is it?
Who am I to say?
Well, you're the guest. You have power, allegedly.
Well, then I say it's the running gag. I think it's the moment. It's the joke. Everyone loves it. They're at home cackling every time you say it.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. People love it. It's Artworkers, the Independent Artists Forum. I'm your host, Carl Bindman, and I am joined today by a phenomenal actor who goes by the name of Mary Blake, which I learned recently is pseudonymous.
What does that mean?
It's a pseudonym.
Pseudonymous. Okay, I see.
You don't have to tell everybody your real name, but it was interesting.
Pseudonym.
Yeah.
But the story of my real name is just that my last name is so hard to say that it had to go. It's Polish, and there are so many consonants, and when you try to read it, it was just massacred every single time. So it had to be changed.
So it's Mary Blake.
It's Mary Blake. That's all you need to know.
Why did you choose Mary Blake?
I was kind of shopping around for different last names, but you know how it goes.
At the last name store.
Yeah, at the last name store, and I like the poet William Blake.
Yes.
So I thought,
are you more of an
nice.
innocence or experience girly?
That's hard to say. I think it depends on my mood.
Yes.
On what era I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in your Tigers era or your London Soot era?
I think I'm in my Tigers era.
Yeah, I feel like both of those are actually from Songs of Experience.
They might be.
Listen. So Mary and I know each other through the best way to get to know an actor, which is working with them. And this is something of a tangent, I think, but will lead to an actual question, which is, do you know the show The Night Of? John Turturro, Riz Ahmed.
No, I don't.
Okay, good show. Great show, one could even say. Classic HBO miniseries from when they used to do those. And there was an interview show that I listened to that was kind of an inspiration on this. It was called Off Camera with Sam Jones, I think. And he interviewed Riz Ahmed. And on the show, Riz Ahmed was talking about his experience working on set with John Turturro on The Night Of. Okay, great. That's the premise. But he said something that made sense to me, which was, it's not like a method thing, but it is true in his experience, in Riz Ahmed's experience, that what the dynamics on the show are kind of end up being reflected in the dynamics between the cast and on set. And so John Turturro's character was kind of like the mentor figure for Riz Ahmed's character. He was his lawyer. And they ended up having that kind of relationship offset where Riz Ahmed's character started Riz Ahmed ended up being kind of like closed off and prickly with everybody, and John Turturro became his like advocate with everybody else. And how we know each other is a show called The Hunger Artist, which was written by Michael Landis, directed by Yibin Wong, who was a guest on this show. And you on that show were my manager.
So, does that mean that I should be your manager in real life?
How many casting directors do you know?
0.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not true.
No, I mean, I probably know a few, but not well. Not enough that I would be like, you got to get Carl Bindman in the room, man. He's amazing. He's going to kill it.
But you could say that if you wanted to.
I could. I'm going to start just telling every casting director I see this.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be huge.
Will you do that for me?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I kind of
great.
already do.
Okay,
I
great.
did try to get you in a short film last week.
You did.
Yes.
And I was busy.
You were. But the reason I bring this up is the reason that I'm very excited to have you on the show, which is because I played a kind of recluse. I didn't end up really getting to know a lot of the cast on that show. I think also just the requirements of the rehearsal room were like, I had to deal with all the tech stuff.
There was a lot of tech stuff happening. Yeah.
And I was just so like kind of spent when we had break time that I couldn't be like, hey, let's chat and get to know each other. So this is kind of like a year and a half later, my chance to get to know you, my castmate on that show. But I do want to say, I think you did really wonderful work on that show.
Thank you. So did you, Carl. I got the pleasure of watching you every single night because you had these really long monologues and I just got to sit front row and enjoy your performance.
But it was fucking weird, right? Because you and I, you were the character I spoke to the most.
Yeah.
But we didn't actually like look at each other or occupy the same physical space on stage until the second to last scene. How did you navigate that in the performance?
It's always kind of tricky. I think, you know, whenever you can, it's great to be looking at your scene partner but then again, I think one thing I've been learning in acting classes recently is you don't have to always be making eye contact with your scene partner, you know, which seems obvious when you watch people talk to other people. They don't, look at you looking away from me right now. And so I guess in a way I was trying to treat it as like, let me figure this out and feel it out how I can just make this true to real life. And a lot of it was phone calls with the two of us too, which is, I think, its own bit of technique for acting. How do you do a phone call? So, I was using it in that way. Yeah.
And something that I felt too that maybe eased some anxiety I had around like, oh man, I feel like this performance is kind of weirdly disconnected. Is like, that's the effect that we're trying to produce, right? We're trying to show that these people are not vibing in a way. I mean, my feeling was that your character was like, you know, really using my character towards her ends of like making money as a manager, advancing her career as a manager with kind of no regard for my character's well-being, which my character wanted.
Sure. But you'd hope your manager in real life would step in.
Yes. But yeah, like the experience of that, I think, was effective for communicating the message or the feeling that the piece was trying to produce. And that's something that I sometimes feel that I need to remind myself if I'm like in a show and I feel weird about what's happening. Like, I do a scene, the scene ends, I feel bad. Is it because I feel bad, Carl Bindman, the performer, or just is that just what the scene is? And it's like, is that something that you experience? For sure. I think most recently I was doing Three Sisters, which you came to see. Thank you so much for coming out. So good, Mary. You're such a fucking good actor.
Thanks, Carl. That was a really hard role, but it was very fun, and I was really excited to do it because I love Chekhov, and when I was in college, my junior year, COVID hit, and that was supposed to be the semester that we were focusing on Chekhov, and I didn't really get into it as much as I wanted to. So it's been nice knowing some people at Columbia who are working on Chekhov pieces. And Three Sisters in particular, I love, and Masha always stood out to me as very, very complex and complicated. And I knew that going into it, but I think actually working on it with our director, Delia, I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. There are so many layers to this. And I was struggling a lot, feeling like, do I feel like a bad actor as me, Mary, like you said, or is this just like how it is? Because she's someone who is very depressed by everything around her and stoic in a way, and sort of finding these moments where she is having these emotional outbursts because she just can't hold it in anymore. So yeah, I think I've been feeling a lot of that recently. How did you move through that? Delia was so helpful. We had rehearsals with just the two of us where we would just sit down with the script and go through, and she's great at getting into the nitpicking of, you try this here, let's do operative words. Nitpicking as positive. As positive, yes. You know, sometimes it can be negative, but I think with Chekhov in particular, I think it's really helpful because it's similar to the way we speak, the translations that we were doing, but it is a little bit different, a little more formal. And there are all of these social norms going on in the time period in Russia at the time. So
you did the Schrader?
We did the Paul Schmidt version.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant Schmidt. Paul Schrader.
Paul
Very
Schrader.
different.
Love him.
Very different.
But yeah, Delia was really great. She's so smart, and she just has such a sensibility about how people are with each other. So character relationships, I think, were a big thing, helping out with how Masha feels about her life.
Yeah. I did think that, like, the three sisters, you all had really clear feelings for and about each other.
Thank you.
Watching it, the dynamic between the three of you was delightful. I spent a lot of time, because of the way it was staged, like in kind of a long space, and for part of it there's like a table, and because I'm crazy, when they were like, you can sit at the table, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. But because I didn't want to constantly be fucking moving my neck around like an owl, I often decided just not to track the speaker if they were moving around, and watch the other people for their listening and for their reactions. And I think among you, like the sisters especially, were so attuned to each other and so living in the space and responding. And it was so delicious. How did you, as a sort of ensemble, go about building that?
The first thing we did was table work, as it goes sometimes. And we did something that I love to do on my own too, but it was cool that Delia wanted to do this with all of us, is we went through the script and we found everything our character says about themselves, everything they say about other people, everything other characters say about the character, and then everything the stage directions say that Chekhov is maybe feeling, this is how this character is. And I think I get such a clear picture of a character just by doing that, even if I don't do any other work really on something. It gives you such a skeleton that you can just build from. And so I like to break it down within that as, like, what does Masha say about each character? So I do like Tusenbach. Here's everything she says about Tusenbach. So it just gives you such a clear point of view on things. So I think, yeah, that. And Delia was also very encouraging of having auditory responses, which was fun. And it just makes it a lot more clear for the audience how everyone feels about things.
And it's so helpful for some of those kind of like lengthy psychological monologues where it's like, I'm not just talking into the void, I'm talking to people and they're responding audibly. When you kind of had your big breakdown at the end, what you just said about like how she's constantly kind of holding back her feelings, but like looking for the moments here and there where they do kind of let out. I think how you were able to kind of let some of that steam off at key moments, like breaking the facade of holding, made that last release so believable and so fucking sad.
Thank you.
But sad in a way that isn't like, oh, she's crying on stage and it's, wow, I know I should feel sad, so I feel sad. But it was like actually deeply moving because we've seen the journey of getting there, you know? Just kudos to you for that performance. Truly, truly, truly.
Thank you, Carl.
You're so welcome. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, of course.
With the way that you said you like to build a character of like doing the, I learned that similarly. It was called like objective and subjective ways of understanding what the characters are thinking, and like what the text says is the objective thing, which is not true. What is it about that draws you in as a tool?
Yeah, So I majored in acting in college, but also creative writing.
Yes.
And I love to write, although I haven't been doing as much of it recently because I've been doing mostly my acting stuff. But I think creating a short story and a character's mindset or anything like that is so helpful, and just has it live in your body more that way. In the same way that if you take notes when you're in class, it just sticks with you, you know? Something about going through the script however many times and pulling out these lines and writing them down either by hand or typing them or whatever just helps solidify the circumstances in my mind. And I think, you know, if you know the circumstances, you can build anything from there.
I mean, I'm right now, I think I'm kind of in a period of like how I work is in flux. Like, I don't know if I have for a given part so much of like a set, I'm going to do these things at this point. But something that I have done is similarly like trying to build a sense for myself of like the story that the character is experiencing and thinking about the circumstances. And I agree that it can help grounded in the body. But I often in classes and such have received pushback about that from teachers, which is funny because, you know, the whole like, well, if it's in your head, then it's not in your body. Like, do you ever get the note that you are, and I'm not saying this, quote unquote, heady actor?
Yes, I definitely have.
What does that mean to you?
When I first started acting for real, let's say, because I grew up doing musicals and community theater here and there.
So musical theater is not real acting.
Wait,
Thank you, Mary.
Hold on a second. Absolutely, it can be. I love seeing musicals. I don't do them so much anymore. But I think doing community theater where it was a great experience. I love those people and I wouldn't be the actor today without having had those experiences.
Like community theater, like in high school,
in high
college.
school, yeah. Even earlier than that, because I had a great community theater in my hometown. And so all through elementary school and middle school, I was working with them.
Where's your hometown?
My hometown is Flemington, New Jersey. So
great.
Yeah. Great place.
I don't know.
Yeah. You know, small town. And
because your website says you're New York, born and raised.
well, I'm born, yes. Raised, no.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Born West
Heady
Village.
actor, community theater.
I think you're a heady actor, Carl. Community theater, right? But I didn't take any sort of classes on technique. It was just kind of like an approach of go into the rehearsal room, learn your lines, do X, Y, and Z because the director's telling you to do that, you know, and it wasn't really about like getting into the headspace of a character and making choices, which is something I so enjoy now. And I only started doing that when I went to college and started taking acting classes. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what the question was.
It was what your relationship is with the idea of quote unquote
of a heady
actors.
Okay, yeah. Heady actor, yeah. That was the first time I heard that term was my freshman year. We were doing Meisner training, and which you know Meisner training.
I know Meisner training.
Oh yes, you're a very serious actor.
You know Meisner training.
You know Meisner training.
You know Meisner training?
You know Meisner training.
The thing is, I've done this exact joke on an episode, I think 2 episodes ago. So
and it's never not funny.
It's so true, actually. It's always good.
But yeah, so with Meisner, the whole idea is getting out of your head. And for me, this concept of repetition, of being present, and you don't have a script, it was so foreign to me that they were like, you have to just get out of your head, just be in the present moment. And I was like, what do you mean? What is that? How do I do that? And I learned a lot in college, but I don't think those things really sunk in for me until after I graduated, which I think is the case for a lot of people when I talk to them.
Well, you just don't have time.
You
learn things and you put your hands on them very briefly and then you move on to the next thing.
Right.
And it's like you don't have time to build a relationship with the tools when you're just learning them. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But I've been lucky since then to have a lot of projects to work on with actors who also studied and are willing to try these techniques like in practice, on a set, or in a rehearsal room. And I still think I can be a heady actor. I think anybody can be, but I think less and less so the more I do.
Yeah. Well, I think from what I'm getting at here is I resist the label or the notion of a heady actor. Just like I think every actor works the way they work. And what's the business with trying to apply these kinds of like labels with like, well, this is a way of working that isn't good, or you know.
Sure.
But what you had said that was what inspired the question is that you do this sort of, call it intellectual work on the script, and that helps you get it in your body. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me more?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I do this intellectual work ahead of time. If all goes according to plan, it's great to go into rehearsal with this space. And then a lot changes in rehearsals, obviously, but I think the most important thing is just to let it go. I've been taking classes at the Barrow Group somewhat recently, and they have script analysis, but when you go into the room, it's just like, here's a tool, try this, forget everything you were doing before. And I think the changes that I watch in other people's scenes that I feel in my own scene is just amazing. And it's once you do a scene, if let's say they say, do the scene, and it's as if there's someone in the next room who's sleeping and you don't want to wake them up. So the whole thing is whispered and there's this urgency that comes about with it. And then they say in the next run of it, drop that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. But you still find ways to incorporate it into the scene because it's already living within you.
Yeah, the sort of imaginative residue
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that book work, that intellectual work ahead of time does help. But I think you also kind of have to let it go and then have room to change and grow depending on what the director has envisioned.
Seeing your work in a couple of different contexts now, I do think that the letting go is very clear. Like, I do feel like you are easeful and purposeful at the same time in what you're doing. Like, you sent me a couple of your short films, and the period piece one that has a name, which is Yes, No, Goodbye.
Yes, no, goodbye.
Which was like all ADR, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Because we were on a beach. So.
Yeah. I hear and sympathize.
Yes.
With the challenges of that. But I think in the physicality, like the way that you move through a space and the way you move on screen does have this sort of like, I'm experiencing this for the first time quality, you know, like the moment where you found the tree with the lightning strike, and it's like you see it and it's like, oh, she has actually seen that. And that is not a thing to take for granted. And that's why I'm curious about how you get there for yourself. Because yeah, the sense of discovery and the sense of choice in the moment are, I think, very clear in that, in your Chekhov, in the horror short that you sent me. So I'll just put a little bookend on that thought and go back to something that you said, which is taking classes at the Barrow Group. You've done a lot of classes at like a lot of different schools, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where have you studied?
I studied at Stella Adler. I studied at the Barrow Group. I've done like little master classes and workshops here and there. And then mostly at Elon University in North Carolina.
Yeah. When did you graduate?
I graduated 2021.
Okay. Good timing.
Good timing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I sympathize. I graduated in 2022 from my conservatory. So it was like COVID strike. Boom. Hooray. Well, the double strikes, almost the triple strikes, except the directors were cowards. What do you look for in class? Because that's something that I haven't really done so much, that I'm like maybe trying to do now a bit more, is just take additional classes. But like, what is your purpose in seeking training, especially from different perspectives?
Yeah, I got a great, well-rounded sort of arsenal from going to Elon. They covered, Meisner, Stanislavski, Fitzmaurice voice work, all kinds of stuff, and it was awesome. But I think the thing about a BFA is that it feels like you have to try really hard while you're there because you're getting graded on things and you want to be perceived by your peers and your professors who are casting you in plays as someone who's worthy of certain roles, So there's a lot of pressure that you're putting on yourself. And when I graduated, that was finally when I was like, okay, I can do whatever I want now. I'm just going to go and audition for things. And if I don't get it, I'll probably never hear back from them again. I don't have to worry about anything. And so now what I wanted to look for in classes was just little things, little tools that I could use at sort of the spur of the moment. If I go, oh, hey, I'm not present right now, what can I do that'll just help me with that? And that's why when I took a class at the Barrow Group, I was really drawn to their technique because it's so easy and accessible. Well, easy maybe isn't the right word. It can be difficult to actually understand it and have it be something that you can use, but it is accessible. And it's just, try one little thing. All you have to think about is this one note and try the scene that way and see what happens.
Yeah, I haven't worked at the Barrow Group, but I have worked with people and seen a lot of people because I feel like they're a popular place to train right now, which is good. We like people working on their work. I do feel that what you say is true, that it's very, call it minimal. And I think that can be a trap sometimes where it's like a performer, if they don't have firm grounding in other technique, will be like, I'll just show up and just do it. And it's like, I think that's really good in theory and really good in class, but then it's like, and now I have to fill a space and work with actors and such. My very minor beef with the Barrow Group has been established.
No, I hear that. I think coming to it from this background of theater, especially, because I think a lot of my favorite actors are theater actors, and it's just because they have this certain technique that makes you have a presence, whether you're on stage or on screen. I think I didn't really do film ever until after I graduated from college. And so I think
And now you've
Barrow
done
Group,
a lot.
yeah, now I've done a lot, which has been great. And it's been a real learning curve. And I think Barrow Group specifically has helped me with that because it is just so grounding and so easy. Yeah.
Groovy. And like you've also sought training in other spaces, yeah?
Yeah.
What was the draw for you to Stella Adler?
So during COVID, I was supposed to go to the Stella Adler Conservatory during the summer. Yeah. Which I was really excited about, but then COVID happened, obviously, so I didn't get to. So I knew that I wanted to try training there.
But why there?
Why there? I had read her book, first of all. My mom got me I guess it's just like a recording of what she said in her classes that was compiled into a book. And my mom got that for me my freshman year of college. And I read it and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I don't know if I really understand everything she's saying or even necessarily agree with it because I still have the book and I reread it recently. And I was like, I don't know. But there are parts of it that I was like, that makes sense. Let me learn more about this. And then in college, studying Stanislavski, I thought that was a really powerful, really great way to get into a headspace. And so she's using a lot of his techniques. So I figured that was the place I should try first.
My understanding of Stella Adler is it's very imagination forward, which does seem to be how you work and I think I work as well. How do you meet other actors where they're at with their technique when you're working with them?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Think, of course. I learn so much from everyone I work with because, there are these mixed bag of different techniques and there's the Lee Strasberg and there's the Uta Hagen and whatever. But then even within that,
Justice for Michael Chekhov.
Oh, yes. Let's not forget Michael Chekhov. And then I meet people who have studied at multiple studios. And so they have their own sort of idiolect of this acting style that they've created for themselves. And I think I'm a little thief and I steal from everybody. So I think I just go into it with an open mind and try to see how this person works. And I don't know. I think it really is just that simple sometimes, just being present.
So let me be vain for a moment. How did you meet my work in The Hunger Artist?
Ooh, you're a very imaginative actor, which you already said, but you have like an amazing freedom that I covet. I'm trying to get there. Just try things and do something, and you don't care, if it's silly, but it's not silly. It just works and it's fun, and especially for that character, it was just fun. So going into that, I knew if you were going to be silly and funny, then I think I had to be a little more like manager, like we're going to get this going.
It was such a miracle that we got to actually be in the space at the same time for that scene where it's like, I'm done with the stream, but I have decided I will continue fasting. And you're like, well, you need to eat. Because I feel like I picked up on that dynamic and it was so fun to push your resolve. Because I knew she has to keep trying to get me to stop. So what can I do to make her life annoying and difficult as much as possible? I think on stage when we were doing it on one of the nights, I kind of kicked the little food thing away.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And I just grabbed it and I was like, no.
But that's, I think what you described of just being willing to enter into the space with how somebody works is boom, that's it. That's the communion that lets moments like that happen. Because it's okay, we're working together. We kind of understand what the scene is about. And then we can just push each other further with that. Where are other moments like that for you in you can talk about our work together or in some of the work that you've done recently. What's a moment where you were really I'm going to hook into a dynamic and push it and see what happens?
So most recently that comes to mind, Three Sisters. There's the scene where Masha is confessing to her sisters that she's in love with Vershinin, and
they don't want to hear it.
They don't want to hear it. And especially Olga is stop talking. We can't talk about this. This is wrong. You cannot have an affair, especially because Olga, I think in a way is attached to Masha's actual husband and cares for him. So there's this whole entanglement, and especially with the blocking that Delia had, we were not looking at each other a lot of the time, but we could just feel each other's presence. And it just makes the need so much stronger when you're trying to get a message across to someone and you're saying, no, you have to understand I love him, and she won't look at me. And I don't know, it's just chills. It's
so true. I felt that in our scene in The Hunger Artist, where it's something that I was explicitly playing with for myself was not looking at you, which I kind of started doing in the scene where I'm where you come in and set the camera on me which is fucking unhinged. But then when it's like, you've entered the space, like I was also trying to divert my attention from you to make it harder for you to get me to agree to whatever it is you were doing. And that speaks to kind of what you were talking about earlier with like learning about attention and like how you don't need to give your eyes to everybody all the time. And in that scene in The Three Sisters, like, the notion that to be a more helpful scene partner, you have to actually be an unhelpful scene partner is such a useful reminder, right?
Right.
How did you try to resolve that in the scene?
I think in the scene, I started doing this just because it felt right. I would just run up to Olga and I just turned her around and I said, no, because they're your sisters. You want them to love and accept you, even if you're about to make a bad decision, you know, because.
Or especially when you're about to make a bad decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're your equals, you know, especially because Olga and Masha, I had talked to Delia about, they're 4 years apart, 28, 24. That's pretty close in age. I have a cousin who I was telling you earlier lives around here, and she's 4 years older than me, and she's a lot like my sister. And I feel like that would be the same dynamic between us in that situation. And
I think it also contributes to the feeling of familiarity, like family familiarity too, where it's like people fucking touch each other. People touch each other. Another element of great texture in the play. Kudos to you all and to Delia. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a shame that the work we talk about is often stuff that a lot of people have not seen.
Yeah. Theater. The ephemeral theater.
Theater, and also theater in a sort of educational space, in this sort of like liminal professional educational environment of an MFA. Because you and I, we've both done a lot of the Columbia stuff.
Right.
Why did you start doing that?
I started doing that 3 years ago now, I want to say. And the first thing I did was with Miguel, who you know from Dancing in Lunasa.
The iconic Miguel Brigante. And I just had a blast immediately. Didn't you also do a Chekhov with him?
I did. I did Three Sisters.
Well, there you go.
I was Natasha in that one. It comes full circle. I was just like, this is amazing. This is a director. I mean, you know how amazing Miguel is, but a director who's so particular and again, nitpicky in a good way. Like he has a vision, but he's also open to collaboration. And I got a little bit of that in college working with professors, but again, educational settings. So they have very specific goals about like, we're working on this in class. Let's use it in the room, versus a director who just has their own sort of technique and wants to put on a good performance. And it felt very professional and challenging in a way that I had yet to experience. And continues to be, because all of the directors at Columbia are so great, but they're also so different. And they all come from such different backgrounds that they're bringing into the rehearsal room that I'm like, yeah, I'm learning new things all the time.
And they have different pools of actors too, which is fun.
Right.
Like, because I mean, I've also done a fair amount of work with them because, you know, and I think that like, it's cool following a director's work from like their first year to their third year and seeing them build a little ensemble.
Yeah. Aw.
Right?
Yeah.
And you and I are in a couple of these ensembles, I think. Ebeen.
Right.
I still need to work with Delia.
She's the best.
She had wanted me to be in that Three Sisters.
Oh, that would have been fun.
I wasn't able to make it work. I don't know who she wanted me to be. If I were casting myself, I feel like the Baron.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
But I don't know. Something that I do think is very different in your experience and my experience as actors is some of these short films that you've done, they've been seen by a lot of people. Like the period one, Yes, No, Goodbye, directed by
Will Mustin.
Has like 50,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah, really cool.
What is that for you to feel like 50,000 people have seen this piece of my work?
That one in particular, I'm really proud of. It's shot on film, which I was just like, this is so cool. It's a real filmmaking moment. And Will, who wrote and directed it, he's just like the nicest guy in the world, great director, so caring and so passionate about the projects that he's working on. And we shot it for 6 days in the summer of 2022, I want to say. And we were at the beach for a lot of it, and it was all shot during the day. So once the sun went down, we would just go back to our Airbnb and hang out. So it was really fun, a really fun experience, and turns out beautiful. And it's really quiet and leisurely and moving at the same time.
And I think simple.
Yes, which I love. I love that kind of film.
It's like, it's a compelling piece because it is so confident and so straightforward, where it's like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is going to be this nice little story about this guy kind of in the crux of a romantic questioning moment, you know, not to like give away the plot necessarily, but like it's so straightforward and it's so easy to connect to the performances because of that. I think to kind of bring it back around, what for you is your feeling about like having so many people see your performance?
Right. The response has been beautiful. And so that's what really sticks out to me, is because it's on YouTube and people are commenting and liking. And yeah, a lot of people have just been like, this was beautiful. I'm really glad that this popped up on my feed. And it's nice that, you know, someone's just surfing through YouTube looking for whatever, and they just so happen to stumble upon this. And it's like you said, simple, but I think it's truthful, you know, and I think when I think about the kind of art that I want to make more and more, I'm come back to the idea of like, it doesn't have to be so exciting, but if it's just like conveying some kind of truth that makes someone go like, oh, I felt that way, or I understand how people could feel that way, I think that's what's important to me. Yeah.
And so when you see that, you see your work in that project, you see all these people who are resonating with it, it's like, okay, great, mission accomplished.
Yeah, we did something. We did something that's speaking to something, to someone, you know, if that's, it could be that nebulous, but yeah, it's doing something.
That's good. That's nice. Because I think, speaking for myself, it's a tricky relationship with like the desire to be seen, where it's like, I want people to see my work. I want people to connect to my work. But at a certain point, because I've mostly done theater, I know what that feels like and what that looks like in physical space. Mm-hmm. And a successful show, 100, 200 people will see, which is a lot of people to have in a physical space together, seeing your work, being intimate with them physically. And I think there's a contract there, which is understood, which is you're watching me, I'm with you, I can see you, we're sharing this together. And that is not the case online. That is not the case on a mediated performance. So like, what is your relationship with those people who are watching in your mind?
That's tough. Okay, so I won't say names, but I did a film a couple of years ago that was pretty bad, but it's out there and it's got quite a few views, and you can see the reviews and they're not great, you know? And so it's like, you know, it's great to do a project like Yes, No, Goodbye where people really seem to like it. And then there's also the flip side of that where people are like, this sucks. I don't know. I think I'm just taking it at face value. I don't want to say they're not even real to me, but it's almost like they're not.
They're not.
They're just like these random people. I know as an actor from myself and watching other people that I've worked with, you have good days and bad days. And there's so much, especially with film, that impacts how a performance is. You know, if the editing is bad, then the movie's going to be bad too. And so if someone really hates it, whatever. It's not a reflection of my work. But if someone loves it, it's totally a reflection of my work, and we should celebrate that.
Yes, failure is an orphan, success has many fathers.
There you go.
Yeah. What is your relationship then with the audience member in the physical space, like in a theater performance?
I come back to theater. People say like, what do you do more of? What do you like better, film or theater? And I do love theater because it's what I grew up doing. There's just, the energy of having an audience totally changes things. And sometimes that's scary. Like I always feel like opening night, I could be so prepared, but everything's going to change because I don't know what the audience is going to feel or do. But I think once you get a few runs in with an audience and you understand how everything sits, that energy just pushes a performance even further than it was.
But what about that is it that pushes it?
I think, like you said, with the contract, people want to go to the theater to see something good, to feel something, to feel with each other in a communal space. And so if you're on stage and you're living in that truth of that circumstance and you're feeling a certain way and they're reflecting that back at you, it's like a magnifying glass in sunlight, it's just even more powerful for me. It's even more powerful for them. And yeah.
Do you try to find that kind of feeling on a set, or do you just work differently in like the craft of acting?
I think it's different. Because maybe for the first few days on a set, if it's like sort of something longer, it's a little bit like that because you're with people who are behind the camera who don't know you, who are, and so you've got that sort of frenetic energy of like, I hope I do a good job. I hope people like what I'm doing.
And do you mean like you kind of use the crew as the audience?
Sure. Yeah. And, they always say the camera is the audience too when you're doing film. So yeah, I think that it introduces that same kind of energy. But then I think once you start to get more comfortable with a crew and with a cast, and it can be very freeing because it's like being in a rehearsal room with people who know you and you can just play around and do whatever you want. But I think if I tried to channel that same kind of energy, it would just come off as inauthentic. So I think it's different. But I think then to try and find that same kind of energy, I lean into the fun of being with someone who I like to act with. And let's just do something fun and crazy. And we don't have to worry about the audience and what they think.
Yeah. Does it resemble the feeling of class at all?
I think so.
Interesting. Yeah. Tell me more.
I think when I'm in class, well, okay, here's a great, I'll go back to the Barrow Group again. I know you're a Barrow Group hater at times.
No, I'm not. I have good friends who work and study at the Barrow Group.
Okay. we won't put that into the universe. Carl's okay with the Barrow Group.
I'm fine with the Barrow Group. I have no lived experience of their education. I've simply seen some actors who have given performances that I haven't been impressed with who happen to have studied at the Barrow Group, which is not a reflection of the Barrow Group and is simply the trick here is that I'm trying to say that I think it's fine, but I keep talking about how actually, anyway.
No, I hear you. I really do.
So you had a class at the Barrow Group?
So at the Barrow Group and their scene study classes, and that's my point of reference because it's the most recent class I've taken. But you go in with a scene, you perform it once, and then they give you whatever note they want you to play with, and you do it again. And the first time through, I'm always so nervous. Will I get my lines right? Will I, if I have these circumstances, am I going to remember them? Are they going to live with me? But then they give you the note and I take a deep breath, like shake off whatever I did in the first run. And then I go for the second one and it's like, oh, okay, this is just fun. We're just doing something.
Because the scene isn't about your worry anymore. It's about the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what opening night always feels like to me too.
But to bring it back to sort of like the feeling of class on set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The same thing. I think the first time I go through a scene when if it's your coverage and the camera's on you, I'm always so nervous. How do I look or whatever? But then the second time through, you can really play.
Yeah. And how about then on film?
Well, yeah, that's the same thing.
I would feel like the stakes are so much higher.
On film?
Yeah.
Because it's...
To be clear, I don't mean film as in filming. I mean film as in like literally like shot on celluloid.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, so one thing Will, our director of Yes, No, Goodbye, had said when he was casting, is he was like, well, three of you, me, Joe Mack, and Davis, are all theater actors. And he was like, I feel like it works really well because you guys know how to, if there's only one chance at it, you guys can do it and it'll be fun and it'll be good. Versus, with digital, you can do it as many times as you need to do to get it perfect.
Which is a trap, frankly.
Right. Sometimes it can be. So yeah, and the great thing about that film, Yes, No, Goodbye, is that we actually did get rehearsal, which doesn't always happen for film. But I think it was important because especially if you only have a limited amount of film to shoot on. Yeah.
What seems to be a current here in the conversation is like there are often categories and delineations that are made: heady actor, not heady actor, acting for film, acting for stage. But these categories are merely categories, and like the actual reality of doing this stuff is so much more fluid and permeable. Class, stage, set, head, body, imagination, which to me is one of the things that I enjoy tremendously about acting, and why, as far as things to spend one's life doing, acting is among the things that I prefer. But like you, I have a writing practice. And I wanted to talk to you about why you chose to lean into acting versus writing.
I love writing. And I think from a young age, I was really into poetry in particular, and that's something that's always resonated with me. And throughout college, I continued to write a lot of poetry.
At risk of bringing categories into it, is that the kind of writing that you, if you were to identify as a kind of writer, it would be a poet?
I think most of the time, yes. I've also done some like nonfiction, creative nonfiction, I guess you would call it. But I think it's a little more taxing. Simply because you have to do the writing, but also if you're drawing on things from your life and reflecting on those experiences, sometimes it's just like, oh, this is a lot to unpack right now. The reason I think I wanted to do acting more so is, first of all, the people. I love the people I meet doing this kind of stuff.
Writing is so lonely.
It's so lonely. Yeah. And it's still a part of theater. Like I said, I use it a lot of the time to do work ahead of a play. So I still get to do it a little bit. But yeah, I think the people, theater, stage, film, whatever, like just the most interesting people, the most caring, and the most intellectual. Like I just feel like I learn the coolest things from everybody I meet. And on the other hand, I think or at least when I first started out, I felt like a better writer than I was an actor. And so, but I wanted to learn more about acting. And so I think I've just been chasing that since then, just like this thing, I don't really understand it. I still feel like I don't really understand what this is, but I want to.
I feel very similarly, actually. I do think that I am a better writer than I am an actor, which is paralyzing in a way. Because if you're like, you've decided that you're good at this thing, you've decided that you've worked on this thing. I mean, I have a degree in journalism, right? And I wrote so fucking goddamn much. And now I find it easy to start writing, but I find it very hard to stop. I find it hard to finish, rather, because I'm like, well, I'm a good writer. So if I'm writing something, it has to be good. And if it's not good, then I can't stop, or I can't finish it, rather, where it's like, I'm only done when it's good. And there's no room for discovery and play and exploration, which I can do acting. And I think part of it is, I don't think I'm not a good actor. It maybe
You're a good actor. You're a very good actor.
Thank you. But that isn't enough. To do a good performance, to do good at a show, to do good in a part, simply having good technique or simply knowing a lot about the thing is not enough. It's a performance. There's a change that happens when you're with people, you're exchanging energy, you're taking notes, you're doing notes, you're with an audience. There's so much more going on than just, I'm good at a thing and I'm doing the thing. Which is, I think, because I agree, I think I'm an okay actor. I'll say it. I think I'm a good actor.
I think you're a great actor, Carl.
Thank you. I enjoy my work, but there's so much to learn and discover as well, in a way where it's like, that's exciting. And also somebody else decides when it's done.
Yes. Yeah. I think one nice thing about being in college too with writing was you had deadlines, and it was in a way for other people. And I'm the same way. I struggle to finish the writing that I start. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to start a little writing club. Carl, I don't know.
Start a newsletter.
Let's do it.
Subscribe to my newsletter, everybody. There will be one coming eventually when I book something again. No, I'll send a New Year's thing. It's like, hey, good. I joined the union and that's why I'm writing. Yeah, but if you wanted to do like sort of find a way to make a little writing community.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. The thing is, it's kind of reinventing the wheel. Absolutely out there are writing groups.
Sure. But, I keep myself busy with the acting gigs, I guess, as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything lined up?
What do I have lined up? Not much, really. Going into the new year and finishing out Three Sisters early December, I was like, let me take the holidays, relax, figure stuff out. Yeah, and then I'm just going to see what happens. Keep auditioning.
Yes. How do you stay alive when you're not working? I don't mean in the sense of like, what's your job? You mentioned earlier you do something in like real estate, which we love having money to eat food. But like, how do you stay connected to your work if you're not on a show or in class?
Self-taping, mostly. If there's any silver lining to COVID happening during my college career, it was that we all went home. I went home to my parents' house, and in lieu of being in person for acting classes, our teachers were like, okay, learn this monologue, tape it, send it in. And that was the first time I got to see myself on camera, which was a horrifying experience. Since then, I've gotten used to it. But I just think taping is maybe one of the best acting classes I have, you know, and it's free. It's so nice that we have cameras at our disposal these days. And I just watch something back, and after a while you go, oh, I have this habit. I have this habit of doing this certain way, and I should look into that. I can do better. This self-analysis is great.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you like view auditions and self-tapes as like performance?
Yes and no. Sometimes I always, you know, obviously try to do my best, want to get the job. But afterward, if I'm like, oh, that tape, I'm really proud of that tape. I have historically had a self-tape reel where I'll just put together like, here are 5 that I did within the past couple months, and I really think that they're good. And it's nice to be able to send that out to people to be like, here's my most recent work, whether or not I've been filming or if I've been working on a play and I haven't been able to get anything on camera. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is a reflection of everything I've learned up to this point.
That's very different from me. My relationship with self-tapes is, I think it's like a self-protection thing where I put in as much effort as I can get away with it being decent and no more.
Okay.
Which is, I know, kind of like self-sabotage a little bit, where it's like, I'm not allowing it to be excellent. But also it's like, I simply right now feel like maybe I don't have the capacity to make every self-tape I do, every audition I do, like important, which is bad.
I don't think it is bad is the thing. And I understand that, because you don't want to put in all this work for something that you might just not get to do. But I also think there's something to be said for, you know, obviously you know what the breakdown says about the character, about the synopsis, and then just, here are my first instincts. Let me just do this tape and have fun with it and see what happens. And it'll be so you that it'll be different from other people. And that's what's going to make you stand out anyway.
Yeah. And I am trying to like get a relationship with that casualness, you know? Because, I mean, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about like agents and reps and stuff, and how I'm kind of learning that the main thing is, shocker, everybody's just a fucking person, you know? Like, an agent is first a person, a casting director is first a person. And I think my concern is, and like why I feel like I do need to try really hard, but then feel bad when I can't actually try really hard for every single self-tape, is like, I picture now the person watching it, and I'm like, it's their job to watch this, so I should give them something to watch. But that's not the point, right?
They signed up for that.
Yeah. It's weird. It's a weird business.
It is. That's all there is to say about that.
That's all there is to say. We're coming up on, I think, the end of our conversation. Is there anything that you would have wanted me to ask you about, or that you really wanted to talk about and that we haven't had a chance to cover?
I don't think so, Carl. I think you're a great host. And you're just asking the best questions. And you're the best actor. To which we say, yeah.
I'm coming for you, Paul. Mescal. The problem is my wife likes him a lot. So if I can come for him, it'll be with an invite to come have dinner.
For sure.
I'm reviewing my own questions for you now. Oh, yeah, there it is. How do you feel about type?
I have heard that it is important. Well, okay, in college we were calling it brand. I don't know if have you heard this distinction?
Neoliberalism, thank you. But yeah, I think interchangeable concepts, right?
Sure. Well, yeah, so in college they were saying type versus brand, and brand is more encompassing or something was the idea. I don't really understand it. How do I feel about it? I don't use it as much, or maybe don't think about it as much as they led me to believe I would my senior year of college. I just submit for everything. If I think I fit an age range, I'm submitting for it. They might say she should have brown hair. I'm submitting for it. I don't know. I'll let them decide later, because I have enough faith in my abilities to do things that are different. You know, I can do a comedy, I can do a drama, whatever. It'll still be my version of it, but that's for them to decide. So type. I don't know.
Have you had the experience of like getting a breakdown and it says like an XY type? Like you'll get the breakdown. It's like, what we're looking for this project is a Saoirse Ronan type.
I have. I've seen that one specifically.
Yes.
And I say, perfect.
Well, when I saw your headshots, when we did Hunger Artist, it was like, oh, I look up the actors I'm working with. I was like, what the fuck? She looks so much like Saoirse Ronan. That's crazy.
Yep, I get it all the time. But she's the best, so can't.
Who do I look like?
Is there someone in particular that you're told, or is?
I have struggled immensely with type. Specifically with like, he's an actor like this actor or like that actor. And I struggle with it as a concept for sure. But I'm just curious what your feeling is. Because I don't, there is nobody that I think of specifically.
Okay. Oh, what I actually thought genuinely. So I saw Stereophonic a few months ago. Are you like, yes? You're like, yeah. Okay. I was watching it and I was like, Carl could do this. I was like, you could do multiple parts in that. But Will Brill in particular, I was like, Carl could.
It's the houseboat wars. No, it's the houseboat wars. So you've got your houseboats and they're all on the boats and then...
Will Brill is in the room with us. He just entered.
You want to know something crazy?
What?
Actually? So I did well, first of all, Taylor Williams, if you're listening, you heard it here first, folks. God, so Stereophonic is, if not my favorite play of all time, certainly my favorite play of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a fucking miracle.
I love it. Yeah.
And I agree that I could do that part and should do that part. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was Andrew Butler, who plays, I know the cast has changed around a little bit, but he was in the Off-Broadway and the Broadway debut, the assistant sound engineer.
That was the other one, Carl, that I said, that's perfect for Carl. Get him in the room.
So last summer, I did a musical called The Dastardly Thorns versus the Town of Goldhaven, written by Nate Wada and Ben Holbrook, directed by Benjamin Viertel, with a cast album out now. My part was Willie Fish. In the first reading of the play, Willie Fish was played by Andrew Butler.
I think we need to make it happen. I see a type.
Yeah, man, my cousin was in the Eagles. Guys, I don't actually know how to engineer. Oh.
Cast him.
Taylor, please call me. Except, like, actually, I'm a huge fan of Taylor Williams' work as a casting director. Like, I've seen so much of the stuff she's cast. I'm seeing one on Saturday, the John Mulaney thing, which...
What is this?
So it's called All In or something, and it's like sort of a review type thing where it's like the cast is going to rotate, and I'm not sure what exactly it is, but it's like the folks get up there and do some sort of stuff, and the casts change, and the one that I'm seeing is John Mulaney, Renee Goldberry, Richard Kind, and Fred Armisen.
That's going to be awesome.
Just fucking sick. Yeah, Nora and I are seeing that on Saturday. Very exciting. But I've seen like, I saw the Macbeth, the Sam Gold Macbeth. I saw the second stage production of Spain. Anyway, sorry, total tangent. But thank you for saying that.
Of course.
That's an enormous compliment, and I'm very grateful. So I think we can end right there. But I wanted to offer a chance to you to say where people can find you. And if you want to direct people towards anything that you have worked on or want people to check out, the floor is yours.
Sure, yes. You can find me at my website, www.maryblake.com. If you want to see a little bit of my work, Yes, No, Goodbye is on YouTube. And my Instagram is at macaroni_Blake.
Wonderful. Mary, thank you for being here. And always a pleasure.
Thank you, Carl.
And I hope to work together again soon.
Me too.
Yeah, we should hit up all of the people that we know. Be like, put us in a fucking show. Let us be in the room together more than for one scene.
Please.
Yeah. This has been Artworkers, the Independent Artists Forum. That was Mary Blake, and I have been Carl Bindman. Artworkers is produced, recorded, hosted, and edited by me. If you have any questions, you can find my contact information at Artworkers, the Independent Artists Forum, or on my website, carlbindman.com. As always, thank you very much to Louie Zong for the use of our theme song, Fragments. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.